Hi, I'm Al Stroud. I'm going to be taking you through some work on how you use your iPhone screen today, how you can set it up, how you can make it look different, and just a few options on iPhone screens which you may not be aware of. So I'm going to be starting with this main screen that you see when I open my iPhone. That's my home screen. It's the main one that I use. And as you can see, it's set up with icons that represent all of the apps that I have on my phone. And that may be in several pages across here. I'm going to just scroll across from right to left. Just move my finger from right to left and you'll see that it moves across. You may have different screens as well yourself. And as you add icons, there will more screens will be created if you don't do it some other way. So you may have several screens like this. And I just want to talk about how we manipulate our icons on those screens to make it as easy as possible for us to use and just as good as it is as it can be for us as an iPhone user. So the first thing I want to show you is just how to manipulate the icons and move them around in case you haven't done this. And the way I normally start doing this is by going down to an area that doesn't have any icons in it on the screen. For me, that's right down here in this bottom corner. So I'm just going to put my finger down there and hold it for a little bit. And if you do that on yours, you'll see that it goes into what I call the squiggly mode. And when it's in the squiggly mode, that allows you to manipulate or to edit the things that are on that screen. And one of the features of that is that there are little minuses next to each app. So if you want to take an app off of your screen or delete it from your computer, that's where you start. You just touch that and that will do that. As you see, the squiggly mode goes away because you really don't uh, want to leave it on there too long. So I'm going to go back into it. So that's the squiggly mode, and it is the one for editing your screen. Once I get into this mode, I can just put my finger on an app and drag it somewhere else. So if I wanted this one to be up here instead of down there, I can just put my finger on it like I'm going to do. I'm doing it right here. I would just put my finger on it and drag it up there. And as you see, it rearranges all the other icons on the page. So I'm going to drag it back where it was because I don't really want to rearrange them just yet. So that's the first thing. That allows you to move around on the page. It also allows you to move it to a different page. So if I want this watch icon that I just moved to be on my second page, I would just put my finger on it and just slide it to the right. And now it moves over to another page. And if I release it, now it's on that page and something else has been rearranged or pushed off in order to make that possible. I don't really want it there, so I'm going to move it back onto my first page just by sliding it back and moving it around and putting it back where it was. So I can move icons from page to page, and I can move it 2 or 3 pages across that way. I just use it as a method of moving the icons around. So if you haven't done that, that's the way you rearrange icons on your screen. I'm going to get me out of the squiggling mode just for a second here. I want to just talk about screens in general. What I try to do is to put the things that I use most frequently on this home page. This is the one, if you have a home button on your phone, you just press the home button uh, twice and you'll be back at your home page. And if you have your most commonly used things on that page, that's going to get you right there. If you want to arrange your icons other ways, you can, but I tend to put the ones I use most frequently on that main home page, and then I can scroll across to a different screen. Maybe those are the ones I use not quite so often. And then on my third screen, I have folders that contain others that I use less frequently but do use occasionally. There are also some that I don't use very much at all, which we'll talk about later. So I have arranged mine by putting full-size icons that I use a lot on the first couple of pages and one's less frequently used in folders on a third page. My wife uses a different system. She just goes ahead and creates a separate page for each category. So I may have a page that is used for, say, shopping. I don't think I even have one on here. But say library apps. I have one that have my Overdrive, my Cloud Library, my Libby, my Flipbook. So these things that I consider library apps are all on in that folder. The less used ones are on in that folder. So that's the way I do it. She just puts different things on different pages. So she would have a page for businesses or something like that. I want to show you how you can manipulate those pages that you create if that's your choice. So if you notice on your page, you'll see down here, there are some little dots. And you will have just as many dots as you have pages. I had 3, so I have 3 dots down there. So I'm going to go back into squiggly mode. I'm going to do that, or that editing mode. I'm going to do that by putting my finger in here where there are no cursors, just holding it down for a second. And that changes the look of my page. I've now, as you can see, I now have these are highlighted. I'm going to just put my finger right on that. When I tap it, I now have this screen, which identifies all of my other screens. And as you can see, some of mine are checked. These first 3 are checked. These others are not. So I'm going to just check a couple of those, put a little, by touching them, you can't click on it on the screen. I'm going to just touch a couple of those, and you see they now have check boxing. When I'm all done with that, I'm going to push the little done button up here at the top. And if you see what has happened now, instead of having 3 little dots down here, I now have 5 little dots. And when I scroll across, I now have this one, which has some miscellaneous stuff, and this one, which is sort of my shopping screen. So for my wife, she would have a shopping screen like this, and she might have a different one that has games, and she might have a different one that has all of her library apps. And I chose to do it a different way. I chose to build them mostly into folders, which look on your screen like this. And if I want to get into, say, my library apps like I did before, I just put my finger on that and hold it for a second. Just tap it, just tap it. And there I've got my library apps right there in a place where I can see them. To put that back, I'm just going to tap anywhere outside that, and it goes back down to small. So I can do that with my games. I don't have to have a separate screen for games. I just have them right in there. And I tap again to get rid of it. So that's one way of organizing it. I did do another thing which I thought was sort of fun. This was just playing around. I had seen somewhere that somebody organized theirs by putting all the blue ones on one page, all the green ones on one page, all the red ones on one page. And if that works for you, you can do that. I just tried lining them up in the app so that the white ones are on the left and the red ones and then the blue ones or something like that. I just wanted to see if I could do it. It's sort of fun playing around, seeing how hard it is to get them looking like you want. Sort of easier if you line them up across the top and then horizontally instead of vertically, but I like the look of vertical. So at any rate, you can do that all by moving your icons around just like I showed you. Get it in squiggly mode and you can do that. I want to show you another thing. I called it squiggly mode, but if you want to manipulate what is going on with an icon, you can do that another way. You don't have to put your finger down here to go into squiggly mode. If you put your finger right on an icon, I'm going to use the Libby one, just put my finger on it and hold it for a second. You'll see it comes up with some options. Remove the app, share the app, edit home screen. And these are just things that I can do. So if I want to get this app off my screen or off the phone entirely, I can use the remove app, and it will give me the option to remove it from the screen or remove it from the phone. I could share this app with somebody else if I want to. or I could edit the home screen. If I do the edit home screen, I'm going to touch that. When I do that, you see it just puts me in squiggly mode so that I can do whatever I want with that. The way I built those folders, which I had shown you earlier, you may say, oh, well, how did he get those? Well, here's how you get those. You put it in squiggly mode. Again, I'm just touching that bottom area that had no cursor, no icons in it. And I'm going to take my watch icon and move it on top of my clock icon. So I have my finger on it, and you see I'm just going to move it right up on top of it. And now it creates a folder called Utilities. I'm still in squiggly mode, and it's if I touch up here in the Utilities block where it says Utilities, it actually brings up the keyboard, and it's sort of hard to see, but there is a little blue editing line there. So I'm just going to do a back, and I'm going to delete the whole word Utilities. And now I can call this folder anything I want to call it. So I'm just going to call it Time, because I put 2 time-related apps in there. And I'm going to click on Done. And then I'm going to get out of squiggly mode. And now you can see I have a folder on the screen that says Time. If I touch that icon, it pops up and I can get either one of my time-related apps right there. I just tap anywhere else on the screen to let that go back down to what it was. To get things out of it and to get rid of a folder like that, again, I'm just going to put my finger on the, I'm going to just open it first. It's easier this way. I'm going to then get it into the squiggly mode by touching somewhere in there. I'll put my finger on one of those and drag it out. Still hasn't eliminated, so I'm going to drag the second one out. When I drag the second one out, the folder disappears, and it's now just sitting there, and we're in squiggly mode. So I'm going to go out of squiggly mode. So I'm out of squiggly mode now, and what I want to do is talk about a couple of other little features that you see on this screen. One of the things that I do is put a couple of widgets at the top of my main home screen. And as you can see, one of these is just the weather where I am in Frisco, Texas. The other is my calendar. And it's just easier if I can see them right there when I first open up my phone instead of having to go and search for them or open the icon. I just look at those. I can right away see if I have another appointment, and I can see what the weather is likely to be today. To open the app, I can still do it if I want to see the whole app. I do it just like I would with any other icon by touching on it, but it lets me do that. How did I get those on there though? The way I did it, again, I went into my squiggly mode, just touch anywhere on the screen. Then it does something here. It puts a plus up at the top. When I go to that plus, it lets me search widgets that I might want to have on this page. And you can see that there's quite a variety of those. And then there are many apps that have their own version of a widget that you could put onto your screen, just depending on what you want to see and what you use frequently. So I'm just going to touch off of that. If I don't choose one, it just goes away. But let's say I want to get rid of one of the ones that I have. So I'm just going to put my finger on the little minus there on the calendar. And when I do, it says, do you want to remove the calendar widget? This will not remove it, will not delete it. It just removes it from the screen. And as you can see, the other icons then move around to fill in the space. So I would have more space for my regularly used icons if I wanted more of them on the page and fewer widgets. I'm going to go back to my plus up there because I want to have my little calendar back. And when I go back to the widgets this time, I should see one of the options is the one that I just deleted. It is the calendar. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on Add Widget, and it put it back but it didn't put it back in the space that I wanted it. So I'm going to put my finger on it and move it around just like I would any other icon until it's back in the spot that I want it. So that's how I do those widgets at the top of my screen. So let's get out of squiggly mode. So those are some of the basic things that you can do on your screen to handle your icons and do that. There are a couple of other things I'll mention. When we were in squiggly mode, you also had the option of moving these down here. You have 4 icons that you can have down at the bottom. So if right now I have the phone, I have my email, I have music, and I have Safari, the browser. But I don't have to have them down there. I could have a different set of icons down in these 4. And the beauty of those is they are there on every screen. So the things I use the very most often to make a phone call, to check my email, or to do Safari, I can do right there. If I was doing a lot of traveling and was wanting to do a lot of listening to, say, my Libby audio books, this is a library app that lets me download from my local library either written or audiobooks. If I was going to be on an airplane listening to Libby, I might just put it down here and take the music icon out of this because that's the one I would be using most often. So that's just a way to have the very most used icons handy and available to you. And again, doing that is just a lot like doing anything else. I just take this one out and put this one back. And then I've got what I need. And you saw it moved my watch icon to the top of the next page to replace it. This is not the way I want to leave this right now. So I'm going to take the Libby icon out, put the music icon back, then go to the second page, get my watch app back. I'm going to take it out of squiggly mode now. And now I have them back like I had them to start with. So again, you can manipulate those app icons to make the screen look like anything you want it to look like. Of course, there's one other interesting thing you can do with your screen. You can change the background. So I'm just going to go to settings, and that's called the wallpaper. So we're going to go to settings, and I'm going to do that by just clicking on my little settings icon here. When I do that, it takes me to my settings screen, and I scroll down until I see the word wallpaper. And then I'm going to click, just touch this, and it's going to take me to a screen where I can choose a new wallpaper. I'm going to just touch right there, and it will give me a chance to choose from some presets. They have dynamic ones, they have stills, they have live ones, so they've got all kinds of them. Or I can choose from one of my own photos, anything that I think would be interesting to have in there. And a while back, I thought it was interesting, so I built a whole group of them that I have used or would like to use or thought might be good to use and have them in here. Now, since I'm teaching this class, I want that to be a very boring background so you can concentrate on my icons and what I'm doing instead of my background shot of something that might be interesting as well. So I use a very ordinary one. It is just a, a gray one there. I could have made it green. When you touch on one, it'll show you what that will look like on your screen. And then you can decide if you want to use it. You just have to keep in mind it's going to be there behind your icons, and sometimes icons get hard to see. So you'll see on some of mine, I try to keep, especially the left-hand side of my screen, sort of blank. But I usually leave mine on something very ordinary so it doesn't get in my way and I don't have to think about it. So but you can do that. My wife has a little program she uses a lot that puts like gives you a new wallpaper to choose from almost every day. They also do have those standard ones. Some of those are sort of interesting. You can just use one of those, see if it suits your fancy that day. Uh, or if you have a picture of a grandkid, that's always a nice one to have up. or a child. I don't suppose everybody's a grandparent. So um, we have that way of changing the look of our wallpaper on the phone. And I think that pretty much covers the kind of things I wanted to talk about when we're just talking about the screen operations that you can do on your iPhone. So we talked a little bit about moving your icons, getting it into squiggly mode so you can move them around, or you can build folders. You can rearrange the way they look on the page. You can add your widgets that help you with particular aspects of what you want to do every day, let you see it very easily. You can can uh, add to or create screens, so you have more screens. As you see, I have 5 screens here again. I can get rid of those screens by just putting it in squiggly mode, touching on my little set of dots down there. I'm going to take off those 2 dots, 2 check marks I added earlier. I'm going to say done. And when I go back to my home screen, it's just like it was. And again, if you have a phone with a button, you probably know you just push it twice to get to your home screen. If you have a phone like mine that does not have a home button, you just sweep up from the bottom, run your finger up and just let it slide off the screen, and you're right back to your home screen, and you can do all of your normal business right there. So I hope this has been helpful in understanding how you can manipulate things on your screen and how you can show different things. So if you enjoyed it, come back, take a look at some of the other videos I may have on here about using your iPhone. So thanks a lot for joining me today.